Alex had always been curious about the unknown. Space for him was not just a career, it was a calling. Every new planet, every uncharted star system was a chance to discover something that no human had ever seen before. Today he found himself orbiting a planet that glowed with unusual colors. Its surface shimmered with shades of green and violet, like the auroras he had only seen from a distance. The scans were odd. The readings suggested life, but nothing like the kind humans had catalogued. His heart raced. This could be his greatest discovery yet. He suited up and prepared the shuttle. The descent was rough. The planet's atmosphere was thick, swirling with clouds that reflected its strange light. But Alex managed the controls with careful precision. As the shuttle pierced the clouds, he saw sprawling forests of enormous plants, some with leaves as wide as buildings. Rivers glinted with colors that shifted in the sunlight. The air was breathable, surprisingly clean, with a faint scent of sweet flowers. Alex stepped onto the ground, feeling the soft, moss-like surface under his boots. He activated his scanner, watching as numbers and graphs ran across the display. The readings confirmed life everywhere. Insects, plants, and creatures moving in the distance. But there was something else, something intelligent. He felt it before he saw it, a presence that made the hairs on his arms stand up. It was a village, hidden deep within the forest. Unlike anything he had seen before, the structures were organic, built into the trunks of giant trees and crafted from materials that seemed alive. Glowing vines intertwined with the walls, giving the whole place a soft golden illumination. And then he saw her. A figure emerged from behind a tree. She was humanoid in shape, but clearly alien. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. Her hair flowed in shades of silver and violet, moving as if caught in a gentle breeze that Alex could not feel. Her eyes were large and luminous, filled with curiosity and intelligence. She stepped closer, each movement graceful, almost like she was floating above the mossy ground. Alex froze. He had expected to encounter intelligent life eventually, but not like this. He raised a hand in greeting. "I come in peace," he said slowly. His universal translator repeated the phrase in a language he had never heard before. The alien tilted her head, watching him with those glowing eyes. She made a soft sound like a whisper carried on the wind, but it was not a threat. Alex took another step forward, his curiosity outweighing his fear. "You live here?" he asked. She nodded slightly. Then she spoke again, and the translator caught a single word. "Lyria." He repeated it carefully. "Lyria, that's your name?" She inclined her head, confirming it. Alex noticed something strange. She didn't speak in sentences. It was more like she communicated through emotions and gestures, and the translator did its best to capture it. "Are there others?" Alex asked. She pointed toward the village, then waved him to follow. He hesitated, but curiosity won. He stepped forward, entering the village cautiously. The inhabitants were everywhere, but unlike humans, they moved silently, gracefully, and with an elegance that was almost unnatural. Their bodies shimmered slightly, reflecting the ambient light. When they saw Alex, many stopped and stared. Some whispered to each other in a language Alex could not understand, and he felt the weight of their gaze. Lyria led him to a clearing in the center of the village. A large circular platform made of intertwining roots and glowing crystals dominated the space. She gestured for him to stand there. Alex obeyed. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out, touching one of the glowing crystals. The light pulsed, sending waves of warmth through the air. Alex felt a subtle connection, a bridge forming between him and the village. He realized that this was how Lyria and her people communicated with each other and the world around them, through energy and connection, not just words. "You sense it?" Alex asked. Lyria nodded. She stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. There was no fear in her gaze, no hostility, only curiosity, intelligence, and something else, an expectation that Alex couldn't quite place. Before he could ask more, the air shifted. Lyria stepped back and raised her hand. A group of other aliens approached, each unique in color and form. They circled Alex cautiously, studying him. Some made gestures that seemed like questions, others like warnings. Lyria moved to his side, a silent shield, guiding him through the unspoken language of her people. Over the next few hours, Alex tried to understand them. He offered food he had brought, showing gestures of sharing. Some of the aliens accepted, others remained wary. Lyria was patient, translating through her gestures and the energy pulses of the crystals. Slowly, Alex began to see the structure of their society. They valued harmony, intelligence, and courage. Every action had meaning. At one point, Lyria led Alex to a large open chamber inside a giant tree. It was filled with intricate carvings and glowing symbols. She gestured for him to touch them. As he did, images flashed in his mind. Past events, the history of her people, and something called mating season. Alex froze. "Mating season?" he asked. Lyria nodded, then made a gesture implying selection, partnership, and survival. He realized this was a critical part of their culture, a way to ensure the continuation of their species. But when she looked at him, there was something unexpected. She seemed to be implying that he could be part of it. The thought was overwhelming. Alex had traveled across galaxies, studied countless alien species, and yet nothing had prepared him for this. He wanted to ask more, but Lyria led him back outside, gesturing for him to rest. That night, Alex camped near the village, unable to sleep. He watched Lyria move among her people, noticing the way they respected her, followed her gestures, and responded to her energy pulses. He realized she was not just a participant in this society. She was central to it, and for reasons he could not explain, she had singled him out. The following morning, Alex woke to the soft sound of Lyria standing near him. She held a small glowing device and gestured for him to follow. Curious he did, she led him to a small grove where young aliens practiced tasks of skill, endurance, and understanding of nature. Lyria demonstrated, and Alex followed, learning how the rituals worked. As the day progressed, Alex realized that he was being subtly tested, not through direct competition but through observation. His courage, intelligence, and compassion were all being evaluated. Every choice he made, every action he took was noted, and Lyria watched him closely, not just as a guide, but as someone who might one day choose him for something far greater than survival. By evening, Alex had learned a lot, yet understood very little. He had glimpsed a society of remarkable beings, witnessed their rituals, and seen hints of a culture that valued strength of character above all. And through it all, Lyria's attention never wavered. As he sat by the glowing stream reflecting on the events, Lyria approached and simply sat beside him. For the first time, Alex felt that their connection was more than curiosity or ritual. It was mutual recognition. He could not explain why, but he felt drawn to her. And she, it seemed, felt the same. Alex did not know what mating season truly meant nor what his role might be. But one thing was certain, he was no longer just a visitor. He had been seen, evaluated, and chosen in a way that went beyond words. And the feeling was both exhilarating and terrifying. As night fell, Alex gazed at the alien sky. Stars unfamiliar yet beautiful stretched across the heavens. He knew his life had changed in ways he could not yet understand. Lyria's world was unlike anything he had ever imagined, and the journey, he realized, was just beginning. The forest around him was alive with whispers and faint glows, but none of it frightened him. He had faced unknown worlds before, but nothing had prepared him for the intelligence, the grace, and the challenge of a species that could see into the heart of a human and judge him not by strength or size, but by courage, kindness, and the spark of understanding that only humans sometimes possessed. And somewhere in the distance, Lyria watched, waiting, testing, and perhaps choosing. Alex had arrived expecting discovery, adventure, and knowledge. What he found instead was a challenge unlike any other, a challenge not of skill alone, but of character. And as he lay under the alien sky, he knew that in this strange, beautiful world he was no longer an observer. He was a participant, and the most important choice, one he did not yet fully understand, was about to be made. The sun rose slowly over the alien forest, spilling light across the giant trees and shimmering rivers. Alex woke to the sound of soft rustling, the kind that made him feel alive and aware of every leaf and branch around him. Lyria was already awake, standing a short distance away, her hair catching the early sunlight. She made a gesture for him to follow. Alex scrambled to his feet, brushing off moss from his suit. He had questions, many questions, but Lyria did not pause to answer. Instead, she moved gracefully through the forest, leading him toward a clearing he had not seen before. The trees here were taller, wider, and more alive, their trunks glowing faintly from embedded crystal veins. The air vibrated with energy, almost as if the forest itself was conscious and aware of every step they took. When they arrived, Alex saw young aliens engaged in different activities. Some practiced running on paths woven from thick vines, while others climbed towering trees with incredible agility. A few others balanced on narrow roots, holding glowing orbs that seemed to react to their movements. Alex tried to take it all in, amazed by their abilities and grace. Lyria gestured for him to watch. "They are learning," she explained through the translator. "Preparing for mating season. Every adult must show skill, wisdom, and harmony with the world." Alex nodded slowly. "So again, it's not just about choosing a partner?" he asked cautiously. She shook her head. The translator interpreted, "It is about survival, trust, strength, and intelligence. Choosing a partner is only the final step. First, you must prove yourself to the people, to the world, and to yourself." He swallowed. The challenge was greater than he had imagined. He had faced alien wildlife, strange environments, and even hostile civilizations, but this was a test of his mind, body, and heart. Lyria led him closer to the young aliens. One boy, barely taller than a human child, held a small creature in his hands, a sort of alien bird with iridescent feathers. The boy dropped the creature accidentally, and it squeaked in distress. Instantly, Alex stepped forward, catching it before it fell to the ground. The young alien watched him with wide eyes. Lyria gave him a subtle nod. Alex realized that this was part of the evaluation. He was being watched closely. Every action noticed, every decision recorded in subtle ways. "Kindness matters here," Lyria said softly, her voice more a thought than a sound. "Strength without compassion is meaningless." Alex felt the weight of her words. He had always believed that courage meant facing danger head-on. But here, he saw that wisdom and empathy were just as important. He returned the creature to the young alien, offering a small smile. The boy nodded and ran back to his practice. Lyria's eyes gleamed faintly. For the next few hours, Alex followed Lyria, learning the ways of her people. They practiced climbing, balance, and agility. They observed alien creatures and learned to understand their behavior. They solved small environmental problems like clearing blocked streams or guiding lost animals back to their homes. Every task seemed simple at first, but each had layers of meaning. Success meant more than completing the action. It required thought, care, and insight. Alex struggled at first. His human body, though strong, was not designed for climbing the slippery, glowing trees or balancing on the narrow roots. He fell more times than he could count. But Lyria was patient, demonstrating movements with fluid grace, guiding him without speaking harshly. Slowly he improved. His confidence grew, and he began to understand the rhythm of their world. By midday they paused near a large pool of water. The surface was perfectly still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. Lyria gestured for Alex to sit beside her. He did, watching his reflection ripple slightly as he adjusted his posture. "You are different," she said finally, her voice calm but firm. "Most humans would fear this place or try to control it. You learn." Alex chuckled nervously. "I don't even understand half of it yet."
"How do you do all this so naturally?"
She smiled faintly. "We are born with it, but you have something else. Curiosity, courage, compassion. These are rare." Alex felt a strange warmth. Lyria was acknowledging him in a way that no human had before. He had faced battles, survived disasters, and yet this simple recognition of his character felt far more meaningful. Then she stood and gestured for him to follow again. They walked to a nearby grove where creatures were tangled in the glowing vines. Some were small, some larger, but all seemed trapped and distressed. "Release them," Lyria instructed. Alex hesitated, unsure of how to proceed without harming the creatures or the plants. He observed their movements and realized that the vines responded to energy, to thought, almost like the crystals in the village. He concentrated, moving carefully and patiently, guiding each creature free. It took time and effort, but he succeeded. Lyria watched closely, her eyes reflecting pride. "You see, strength alone is not enough. Patience, understanding, and respect for life are equally important. You are learning." As the day wore on, Alex noticed that the villagers were beginning to watch him more openly. Some whispered to each other. Others nodded slightly when Lyria gestured toward him. The message was clear. He was being evaluated, and he was making a good impression. That evening, the sky turned shades of deep violet and gold. Lyria led Alex to a high cliff overlooking the forest. The view was breathtaking. Rivers gleamed like ribbons of light and distant creatures moved gracefully below. "You will need to prove yourself soon," she said. "The first challenge is not easy. You will face tests of skill, logic, and courage. It will not be a game. Failure has meaning here." Alex swallowed hard. "I understand, but will you help me?" She considered him for a long moment, then nodded. "I can guide, but I cannot choose for you. You must show them and show yourself that you are worthy." He nodded, feeling both nervous and determined. He had always believed that humans could rise to any challenge. But he realized now that this was not just about survival. It was about proving his character in a world where strength alone was not enough. The next day began with the first true test. Lyria led him to a circular arena, its edges lined with glowing crystals. Other aliens, young and adult alike, were already there observing. Lyria explained the rules. Each participant must navigate a path filled with obstacles, demonstrating intelligence, courage, and balance. Alex would compete not against them, but alongside them, showing his ability to adapt and learn. At first, the obstacles seemed impossible. Narrow branches stretched across chasms, glowing vines twisted in confusing patterns, and the paths were slippery with dew. But Alex remembered Lyria's teachings. Patience, observation, and careful thought mattered more than brute strength. He took a deep breath and started. Every movement was deliberate. He fell several times, stumbled, and nearly gave up. But each time he remembered Lyria's eyes on him, encouraging him silently. Slowly he progressed, navigating the path with growing confidence. Halfway through, a large alien creature appeared, blocking the path. Alex froze, unsure what to do. The creature was not hostile, but it moved unpredictably. He remembered how Lyria had taught him to observe rather than react. He watched its behavior, noticed the patterns, and moved carefully, guiding it gently to the side. The crowd gasped, impressed by his calmness and insight. By the end of the course, Alex had completed every challenge. He was exhausted, muddy, and bleeding slightly from minor scrapes, but he had succeeded. Lyria's eyes shone with pride, and the villagers whispered among themselves, clearly impressed by his effort and character. That night, as he rested under the alien sky, Alex reflected on the day. He realized that this world, Lyria and her people, were teaching him something profound. True strength was not about power or dominance. It was about courage, intelligence, empathy, and respect. And through it all, Lyria had been guiding him, observing him, and perhaps choosing him in ways he could not yet understand. The forest was alive with sounds and glows, but Alex was no longer afraid. He had been tested, he had learned, and he had begun to grow into a role he did not yet fully understand. And somewhere in the distance, Lyria watched, silently acknowledging his progress and preparing him for the challenges still to come. The journey of understanding, trust, and connection had begun, and Alex knew there was no turning back. He was not just a visitor in this alien world. He was part of something larger, something extraordinary. And when the true test came, he would need every bit of courage, every ounce of intelligence, and every piece of heart he had to succeed. The morning sun spilled golden light across the alien village, casting long shadows through the towering trees. Alex woke early, feeling a mixture of excitement and tension. Today was different. Lyria had told him that the first ceremonial challenge of mating season would begin at sunrise, and the entire village would be observing. He followed Lyria through the forest, her movements as graceful as ever. She did not speak, yet her presence was calming, a quiet reassurance that he was not alone. They arrived at a wide, circular arena, surrounded by roots woven into natural seats. The air was alive with energy, humming softly as the villagers gathered. The arena itself was unlike anything Alex had seen. Crystalline pillars rose from the ground, their surfaces reflecting and refracting light in ever-changing patterns. The floor was uneven, with patches of glowing moss, pools of shallow water, and winding vines that twisted unpredictably. At the center, a pedestal held a single glowing orb, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Lyria gestured for him to stand beside her. Through the translator, she conveyed the instructions. The first challenge was a test of observation, adaptability, and courage. The participants were to reach the orb at the center of the arena, while avoiding hazards and demonstrating respect for the creatures and plants that lived within. It was not a race against others, but a trial of character. Alex's heart pounded. He glanced at the other participants, a mix of young and adult aliens, each displaying confidence and skill. Some had already begun moving, stepping gracefully over vines and pools of water. He took a deep breath and reminded himself of what he had learned so far. Patience, observation, and respect were just as important as agility and strength. He stepped forward carefully, placing one foot on a moss-covered patch. The moss shifted slightly under his weight, responding to his pressure. He remembered Lyria's earlier lesson about the forest's energy. It responded to thought and intent. Focusing, he imagined the moss supporting him, and it held steady. He smiled, realizing he was beginning to understand the rhythm of this world. As he moved, he encountered his first obstacle, a narrow, twisting root suspended over a shallow pool. He balanced carefully, feeling the subtle shifts beneath his boots. Halfway across, the root trembled under his weight. Panic threatened to take over, but he recalled Lyria's advice. Breathe, observe, and act with purpose. He adjusted his stance, slowly inching forward, and reached solid ground on the other side. A group of villagers watched silently, their expressions unreadable. Alex felt their attention but did not falter. He continued moving through the arena with increasing confidence. Small creatures scuttled across his path, some harmless, others appearing more cautious. Alex treated each with care, stepping around them, sometimes guiding them gently if they were trapped or in danger. Then he reached a particularly difficult section. Vines twisted into intricate patterns, creating a maze of obstacles. The air was thick with energy, and Alex sensed the vines reacting to his presence. One wrong step could trigger a trap or block his path. He paused, studying the maze. This was not about rushing. This was about understanding, about predicting the subtle movements of living things around him. Drawing on every observation he had made, Alex began moving again. He mirrored the flow of the vines, stepping in rhythm with their movements. Occasionally he touched a vine gently, and it shifted aside, almost acknowledging his respect. It was like a dance, and Alex realized he was beginning to move as one with the arena itself. Halfway through, a larger challenge appeared. A low-hanging branch with glowing thorns blocked his path. The thorns pulsed lightly as if alive. Alex remembered how Lyria had taught him to read the energy of living things. He approached slowly, observing the pulse of the thorns. Timing his movements with their rhythm, he ducked, twisted, and stepped carefully, avoiding injury. On the other side, he exhaled, feeling both relief and accomplishment. The villagers murmured softly, and Alex sensed approval from many of them. Lyria's eyes shone with pride, but she remained silent, allowing him to face the trial on his own. He appreciated her guidance, but also understood that he had to succeed through his own choices. Finally, he reached the pedestal with the glowing orb. As he approached, the orb's light intensified, and he felt a strange energy flowing through the arena. It was a test of courage and wisdom, not just skill. He was to take the orb without harming the environment or disturbing the living creatures nearby. Alex studied the orb carefully. Its surface seemed smooth, yet he could sense its energy responding to thought and intent. He reached out, imagining only respect and balance. The orb floated slightly toward him, acknowledging his intent, and he grasped it gently. A wave of warmth and clarity swept through him, and he felt a deep connection to the forest, the arena, and the creatures that called it home. The crowd erupted in soft cheers, the sound harmonious and almost musical. The elders of the village stepped forward, nodding in approval. Alex lowered the orb carefully, placing it back on the pedestal with the utmost respect. Lyria stepped beside him, placing a hand briefly on his shoulder in silent congratulations. "You have done well," she said through the translator. "Courage, intelligence, and respect. You are learning. You are ready for greater challenges." Alex felt a swell of pride, but also humility. He realized that this was just the beginning. The trials of mating season were not about winning or losing. They were about growth, understanding, and connection. He had taken the first step, but the journey ahead would test him even more. The rest of the day was spent observing and learning. Lyria introduced him to other aspects of her people's culture: meditation with the energy of the forest, understanding the communication of creatures through subtle movements, and recognizing the importance of harmony in all actions. Alex absorbed every lesson eagerly, fascinated by the depth and complexity of the society. That evening, as the sun set and the sky turned shades of violet and gold, Alex and Lyria walked to a high cliff overlooking the arena. The entire village spread out below them, glowing softly in the twilight. Alex marveled at the beauty and precision of the alien world. "You are changing," Lyria said, her eyes reflecting the fading light, not just in skill but in understanding. You are learning to see the world through their eyes, not just your own. That is the true test of character. Alex nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He had always believed that humans could adapt to any situation. But here, he was learning that adaptation was more than physical. It was mental, emotional, and spiritual. He felt a deep respect for Lyria and her people, and a quiet bond forming between them. Will the next challenge be harder? He asked cautiously. Yes, she replied, and it will require more than courage. It will require trust, insight, and the ability to act for the greater good, not just yourself. Are you ready? Alex considered her question carefully. He had faced dangers before, but this was different. This was not about survival alone. It was about becoming a part of a community, proving that he could understand and respect a way of life far beyond his own. I will try, he said finally. I want to learn, to understand, and to do what is right. Lyria's expression softened. That is all I ask. Courage without purpose is empty. But courage with understanding, that is rare. That night, Alex could not sleep. He lay under the alien sky, staring at unfamiliar stars, thinking about the trials ahead. He remembered the orb, the creatures, the reactions of the villagers, and most of all, Lyria's steady, observing gaze. He realized that she had chosen him for this challenge not because he was human, but because he had shown qualities that mattered, qualities her people valued above all else. He wondered what the next trial would bring. Would he face danger? Would he need to solve a puzzle or prove his loyalty in some unseen way? The uncertainty both excited and terrified him. Yet deep inside, he felt ready. He had learned to move carefully, observe closely, and respect everything around him. He had taken his first real step into the heart of an alien culture, and he knew that every choice he made from now on would matter. As he drifted into sleep, Alex felt a quiet determination. He would face the challenges ahead, not just as a human visitor, but as someone striving to understand, to connect, and perhaps to be worthy of the bond that Lyria had silently offered. The first ceremonial challenge had tested his courage, but the trials of mating season were only beginning. And he knew without doubt that he would rise to meet them, guided by the lessons of the forest, the wisdom of Lyria, and the unspoken connection that had begun between them. The morning light filtered through the giant trees, painting the forest floor in soft golden hues. Alex woke with a sense of both anticipation and apprehension. Today was the day of the second and most challenging trials of mating season. Lyria met him outside his temporary quarters, her expression calm but intense. The weight of what was coming pressed on Alex, yet he felt ready. They walked together in silence through the winding paths of the village. The villagers were already gathering in the central arena, their glowing forms giving the space an otherworldly beauty. Today's trials were not just about skill, they were about judgment, insight, and the ability to make choices under pressure. Alex could feel the energy of the forest vibrating more strongly, as if it too understood the importance of this moment. Lyria gestured for him to stand at the edge of the arena. From there he could see the challenges, a series of platforms suspended above a shallow river, connected by twisting vines and glowing roots. Between the platforms were creatures that moved unpredictably, some harmless, some with defensive instincts. The goal was to reach the central platform while demonstrating control, compassion, and wisdom. The crowd was silent. Every pair of glowing eyes watched him carefully. Lyria stepped back, letting Alex take the first move. His heart pounded as he carefully placed one foot on the first platform. It was slick with moisture, and he nearly slipped, but he remembered her teachings. He adjusted his weight, moving deliberately and with respect for the living environment around him. Halfway across, a large creature emerged from the water below, a serpentine animal with scales that shimmered in the sunlight. It hissed, moving toward him in a threatening way. Alex froze, unsure what to do. The creature was not attacking, yet it tested him as if sensing his intentions. He remembered Lyria's lessons: patience, observation, and compassion. He stepped slowly, extending a hand without threatening motion. The creature paused, tilting its head. Alex spoke softly, using the universal translator to emit calm, peaceful tones. The creature seemed to understand and slithered away, clearing the path. Alex exhaled, relieved, and continued. As he moved from platform to platform, he noticed subtle cues from the forest. Certain roots shifted when he stepped too forcefully. Vines seemed to guide him when he moved gently, and some platforms responded to the energy of his intent. He realized he was not merely crossing a physical path. He was participating in a living, breathing challenge that measured his understanding of harmony and respect. Reaching the final platform, Alex found a glowing crystal at its center. Lyria's gaze met his, calm but expectant. He knew this was not just about grabbing the crystal. It was about demonstrating his understanding of the environment, his respect for its creatures, and his ability to act wisely under pressure. He took a deep breath, focusing on the energy around him. Slowly, he extended a hand, letting his intention of care and respect flow into the crystal. It pulsed warmly in response, a sign that he had succeeded. A wave of quiet approval spread through the crowd, and Alex felt both relief and pride. But the trials were not yet over. Lyria gestured for him to follow her into a smaller, more secluded part of the forest. Here, the challenge was different. A large glowing tree stood at the center, its branches stretching high and wide. At the base, several smaller creatures were tangled in roots and vines. Alex was to free them without damaging the tree or the environment. He approached carefully. The roots were thick and moved subtly, almost alive. He used his hands and the techniques Lyria had taught him, guiding the creatures free one by one. Some creatures were frightened, others curious, but all responded to his calm and careful movements. By the time he finished, the tree glowed brighter, as if acknowledging his actions. Lyria watched closely, nodding. "You are learning the balance of strength and compassion," she said. "These trials measure not just skill, but heart." "You are ready for the final stage?" Alex's stomach tightened. He had proven his courage, intelligence, and respect, but he knew the final stage would push him further, testing his loyalty, insight, and ability to act under moral pressure. They returned to the arena as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The villagers formed a circle around a new structure, a platform surrounded by pools of water with 5 paths leading to the center. Each path presented a moral or intellectual challenge. Alex understood that he had to choose wisely, for his actions would not just affect him, they could affect the entire community. The first path required patience. He was to guide a fragile creature across moving platforms without causing harm. He moved slowly, observing the creature's reactions and adjusting his steps. A misstep could have injured it, but Alex succeeded, carefully guiding the creature to safety. The second path tested wisdom. A puzzle of glowing stones blocked his way, requiring him to place them in an order that reflected harmony with the forest's energy. He concentrated, recalling patterns he had seen earlier, and aligned the stones correctly. The pathway opened, and he advanced. The third path was a test of courage. A narrow bridge suspended over glowing water swayed under his weight. Shadows beneath hinted at unseen creatures. He focused on his balance, remembered Lyria's guidance, and crossed steadily, refusing to give in to fear. The fourth path challenged insight. Alex encountered a small alien village in miniature, with creatures trapped in miniature dilemmas. He had to choose solutions that preserved harmony and fairness. Each decision required careful thought. Alex considered each outcome, demonstrating fairness, empathy, and reasoning. His choices pleased Lyria, and he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The fifth and final path led him to a glowing pedestal at the center. Here he faced a final moral decision. Lyria stepped beside him but did not interfere. He was presented with a choice: use a resource to benefit himself immediately or conserve it to help the forest and the village flourish. Alex paused. He remembered the lessons of respect, compassion, and insight. Without hesitation, he chose to conserve the resource, knowing the long-term benefit outweighed immediate gain. The pedestal glowed brightly in response. A wave of energy passed through Alex, and he felt the recognition of the village, the forest, and Lyria herself. The trial was complete. He had demonstrated courage, intelligence, empathy, and wisdom. The villagers erupted in quiet cheers, their glowing forms shimmering with approval. Lyria approached, her eyes shining. "You have succeeded, Alex. You have shown your worth not just in skill but in character. You are ready for the final step of mating season." Alex felt a mix of relief and anticipation. The trials had tested every part of him, body, mind, and heart. He had faced obstacles, creatures, and moral dilemmas, and he had succeeded by staying true to the lessons he had learned. That evening, the villagers held a ceremony. The arena was lit by glowing crystals, and Lyria led Alex to the center. The elders spoke in their melodic language, the translator providing a rough understanding. Alex had been tested and had proven himself worthy of trust and partnership. Lyria stepped forward. She placed her hand gently on his arm, her gesture conveying approval and acknowledgement. Alex realized that he had been chosen, not because of his strength or his human abilities, but because of his courage, compassion, intelligence, and respect for her world. A feeling of deep connection passed between them. Alex understood that this was more than recognition. It was a bond of trust and mutual understanding. He was no longer an outsider. He was part of the community, a participant in the continuation of their traditions and a partner in the challenges that lay ahead. As night fell, Alex stood beside Lyria, gazing at the glowing village below. Stars sparkled above, unfamiliar yet beautiful, reflecting in his eyes. He realized that the trials had not just tested him, they had transformed him. He felt a new sense of purpose, a responsibility not just to Lyria but to the entire community. Lyria's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, a silent affirmation of their growing bond. Alex knew that the final steps of mating season would be the most important. He would be asked to make choices that affected not just himself, but the balance of life around him, and he was ready. He had learned patience, respect, empathy, courage, and wisdom. He had faced challenges that pushed him to his limits and had emerged stronger, not just physically, but morally and mentally. The final step would require everything he had learned, and perhaps more. Alex looked at Lyria, feeling a mixture of admiration and quiet awe. She had guided him, tested him, and challenged him in ways he could never have imagined. And yet she had chosen to place her trust in him. The thought filled him with determination. He would not disappoint her. He would rise to meet every challenge, honor the lessons he had learned, and show that humans, when guided by courage and heart, could earn the respect of even the most extraordinary beings. As the village settled for the night, Alex felt a deep calm. The trials had been difficult, but he had succeeded. He had proven himself worthy in the eyes of the villagers and, most importantly, in the eyes of Lyria. The final steps of mating season awaited, and Alex was ready to face them, knowing that whatever happened, he had grown, learned, and become part of something far greater than himself. And somewhere in the distance, Lyria watched, her eyes reflecting pride, curiosity, and a quiet. The forest was quiet in the early morning, the soft light spilling through the enormous trees and reflecting off the crystal veins embedded in their trunks. Alex awoke with a sense of anticipation he could not shake. Today would mark the final day of mating season, the day when all his trials, his efforts, and his choices would culminate in the ultimate test, not just of skill but of trust, understanding, and the bond he had begun to form with Lyria. Lyria met him at the edge of the village. She was calm, her eyes reflecting the glow of the dawn, but Alex could sense the weight of the day ahead. The villagers had gathered silently in the arena, their glowing forms creating a surreal tapestry of colors and light. The elders stood at the center, their presence commanding yet gentle, radiating authority and wisdom. Through the translator, Lyria conveyed the instructions. The final challenge was a combination of all previous trials. Alex would need to demonstrate his courage, intelligence, compassion, and wisdom. More importantly, he would need to show his ability to act selflessly, understanding that the welfare of the forest, the creatures, and the villagers mattered more than any individual success. Alex took a deep breath. His body ached slightly from the previous day's challenges, but he felt mentally prepared. He had learned to read the energy of the forest, to move with care, to respect life, and to act with thought and intention. He was ready. The first stage of the challenge required him to navigate a maze of shifting platforms, suspended above a glowing river. As he stepped carefully from one platform to the next, he noticed small creatures caught in the moving paths. He paused, adjusting his approach to guide them safely rather than rushing forward. Each correct movement seemed to harmonize with the forest's energy, and the platforms shifted to accommodate him. It was as if the forest itself acknowledged his respect and understanding. Halfway through, a larger obstacle emerged. A massive vine pulsating with light and energy blocked his path. The vine twisted unpredictably, and the moment Alex touched it, it recoiled slightly, testing his patience and control. He remembered Lyria's words. Strength without respect is meaningless. He moved slowly, gently guiding the vine aside, and continued across the platforms. When he reached the final platform of the first stage, he found a glowing crystal hovering in the center. The crystal's light pulsed like a heartbeat, reacting to his presence. Alex extended a hand, focusing on respect and harmony, and the crystal floated toward him gently. He placed it on a pedestal without disturbing the surrounding environment. A ripple of approval moved through the villagers, soft but unmistakable. The next stage took place in a dense grove. Here, Alex encountered a series of moral and strategic challenges. Small creatures were trapped in confusing arrangements of roots and glowing vines. Alex needed to free them without damaging the environment or causing harm. He worked carefully, observing every movement, anticipating potential reactions and acting with precision. By the time he finished, the creatures were safe, and the grove glowed brighter as if acknowledging his actions. Lyria's gaze remained fixed on him, calm but attentive. She did not intervene, allowing Alex to demonstrate his understanding and capability. He felt her trust in him, which fueled his determination. He realized that this challenge was not about physical prowess alone. It was about proving that he could act with integrity and wisdom, even under pressure. The final stage required the greatest test of all. A circular arena had been prepared at the center of the village, filled with challenges that combined physical skill, intellectual puzzles, and ethical decisions. 5 paths led to the center, each representing a different aspect of the mating season trials: courage, intelligence, empathy, wisdom, and trust. Alex needed to traverse them in sequence, demonstrating mastery of all he had learned. The first path tested courage. Narrow bridges spanned pools of glowing water, and shadows beneath hinted at unseen creatures. Alex steadied himself, recalling the previous challenges. Each step was deliberate, each movement measured. Fear threatened to overwhelm him, but he focused on the lessons Lyria had taught him. By the time he reached the end, he felt a quiet confidence and relief. The second path tested intelligence. A puzzle of glowing stones blocked his way, requiring careful observation and reasoning to align them in harmony with the forest's energy. Alex studied the patterns, noting subtle shifts in light and motion, and placed the stones correctly. The path opened and he advanced. The third path was a test of empathy. Several creatures were entangled in a complex network of roots and vines. Alex had to guide them to safety without harming them or disrupting the delicate ecosystem. He moved slowly, observing the creatures' reactions, offering gentle guidance and adapting his movements as needed. By the time he completed this stage, he had saved all the creatures, earning quiet approval from the villagers. The fourth path tested wisdom. A miniature model of the village was presented, depicting dilemmas and challenges that mirrored real-life decisions. Alex had to choose solutions that balanced fairness, safety, and respect for all inhabitants. Each decision required careful thought, weighing immediate benefits against long-term consequences. He approached the problems methodically, making choices that reflected understanding and foresight. Finally, the fifth path required trust. Trust in himself, trust in Lyria, and trust in the forest. At the end of the path stood a glowing pedestal with 2 intertwined crystal orbs. Alex was instructed to place his hand on one and allow the energy to connect with the other. He felt uncertainty, a slight tension in the energy, but he remembered all he had learned: courage, intelligence, empathy, and wisdom. He placed his hand on the orb, focusing on respect, harmony, and trust. The orb pulsed, responding to his intent. A wave of warmth passed through him, and he felt the acknowledgement of the forest, the villagers, and Lyria herself. The 2 orbs merged into a single, radiant crystal, glowing brighter than any light he had seen before. The villagers erupted in quiet, harmonious cheers. Lyria stepped forward, her eyes reflecting pride and admiration. She placed her hand briefly on Alex's arm, a silent gesture of recognition and connection. "You have succeeded," she said softly through the translator. "Not because you are human, but because you have shown the qualities that matter most: courage, wisdom, empathy, and respect. You have proven yourself worthy." Alex felt a surge of pride and humility. The trials had tested every part of him, physically, mentally, and morally, and he had emerged successful. But more importantly, he had grown. He had learned to understand a world far different from his own, to act with care and integrity, and to forge a bond built on mutual respect and trust. The final ceremony of mating season began as the sun dipped below the horizon. Glowing crystals illuminated the arena, casting shimmering reflections across the villagers' faces. Alex stood beside Lyria, feeling the weight and significance of the moment. The elders spoke, their melodic language carrying the meaning of tradition, trust and acceptance. Through the translator, Alex understood that he had been accepted not only by Lyria, but by the entire community. His actions, decisions, and character had earned their respect. The bond with Lyria was no longer uncertain. It had been affirmed through trials, growth, and shared experience. Lyria stepped forward, her hand resting gently on Alex's shoulder. Her eyes met his, and he saw in them a mixture of pride, admiration, and quiet joy. The connection between them, forged through the challenges of mating season, was real and undeniable. Alex realized that he was no longer an outsider. He was part of something greater, a community that valued courage, wisdom, empathy, and harmony above all else. He had been tested and had proven himself not just through skill, but through heart and understanding. The ceremony concluded with a symbolic gesture. Lyria extended her hand and Alex took it without hesitation. The crowd watched in quiet celebration as the bond was acknowledged. The energy of the forest seemed to pulse in harmony with them, the glowing light reflecting the unity and connection that had been established. As night settled over the village, Alex and Lyria walked together through the glowing forest. The air was alive with soft sounds and gentle light, a reflection of the harmony that had been achieved. Alex felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced challenges that tested every part of him, grown in ways he had never imagined, and formed a bond that transcended species and worlds. Lyria spoke softly, her voice carrying a quiet warmth. "You have done more than I could have imagined. You have shown that humanity is capable of understanding respect and courage, even in worlds far different from your own." Alex smiled, feeling the truth of her words. "I could not have done it without your guidance," he replied, "and I could not have done it without learning from this world." They reached a high cliff overlooking the village, where the crystal light of the community reflected on the rivers and trees below. Alex felt a quiet awe, realizing the journey had changed him profoundly. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a part of this world, accepted and valued for who he was and the choices he had made. Lyria looked at him, her expression soft but steady. "Mating season requires more than just choosing a partner," she said. "It requires understanding, growth, and a willingness to act with heart. You have proven yourself,